Welcome to Robotics and Automation News webinars, where you can be part of a global event without leaving your home or office. Attend our live webinars and communicate directly with influential professionals in your industry.
Hello, my name is Abdul Montakim. I'm editor of Robotics and Automation News.com. In this interview, I speak to Jordan Sun, the newly appointed head of product at Softbank Robotics America. Now, as many of our readers will know, Softbank Robotics has invested a lot of money and done a lot of interesting things in the sector, giving our website plenty of interesting things to report. But its parent is a gigantic telecommunications company in Japan, and although its robotics business is hugely successful in its own activities, it still represents only a fraction of its parent company's turnover. Nevertheless, the company's leadership is obviously very interested in the robotics sector, which is why SoftBank Robotics is one of the few, or maybe the only, business unit to which it has attached the SoftBank name, as Jordan explains.
My name is Jordan Sun. I'm head of product at Softbank Robotics. Prior to joining Softbank, I've had a myriad career at the intersection of tech as well as creating public good. I started out in finance, then spent several years in the national security community with tours in Afghanistan, as well as Japan and Taiwan, and also spent years later in both medtech, robotic radiosurgery, as well as digital health spaces, where I've worn multiple hats from operator, investor, to also the hat of the CEO of a spin-out venture.
Okay, and the next question is usually a do this to begin with. Next question is kind of superfluous or not necessary because so many people know what SoftBank is, SoftBank Robotics, especially in our audience anyway. But give us a brief overview of SoftBank Robotics itself, perhaps explaining the US division and maybe touching on some of the other globally geographical divisions. I didn't know it was organized in that way, but give us an overview of SoftBank Robotics, please.
Great. Well, so I work for Softbank Robotics America. We are the North America business unit for Softbank Robotics. Softbank Robotics has a very unique journey in providing, we're really delivering robots and advancing civilization through robots in what we call cobotic or collaborative robot journeys. And what that means is really trying to figure out ways where we can augment and empower human beings, specifically starting with enterprise spaces. And so under SoftBank, SoftBank Robotics is also quite unique in the fact that as a SoftBank business, we're actually the only one that is allowed to have the SoftBank brand. And that really shows you that, SoftBank Robotics is we're taking a very serious bet here as being the tip of the spear to transform more broadly the company, but also our emphasis on this space of physical automation.
I understand your point. So SoftBank, just in case some of the audience don't know, SoftBank is actually a very, very large telecommunications company. It's absolutely massive. And robotics is just one, well, relatively small business unit. In and of itself, it's the robotics business is quite big. It's probably one of the bigger robotics companies out there. But for SoftBank as a parent company, it's relatively small. So, but what you're saying is that it thinks, highly of it enough to give it its own name, SoftBank Robotics. So yeah, I understand that, and I'll start with a follow-up question that basically kind of shows you the extent of my knowledge. So SoftBank Robotics, I know it for two things. This on the screen, we've got the US version of the website, and that's featuring or highlighting It's a cleaning robot. I'm not, you can tell me a bit more detail. It's a kind of a vacuuming robot aimed at spaces such as office spaces and commercial spaces rather than homes. And it's been doing very, very well, many thousands of units sold. I'm very pleased to see our website is featured on there, very flattered. But yeah, this is, tell us about the products. I mean, I don't know if I should ask you about, so this is the EMEA website, which features humanoids alongside the Wiz, as it's called, the cleaning robot. But I don't know, you go ahead, talk about the SoftBank's products, which ones you're responsible for perhaps, or what the portfolio is ones that robots that I might not know about that that you've got at the company.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, as Abdullah, I know you're quite familiar with our journey in robots, and shifting from our humanoid journey to focusing on more enterprise grade solutions. One of the exciting reasons as to why I joined SoftBank was really coming from my last experience, where in between working in the digital health world and joining SoftBank, I had during the pandemic, I was the chief innovation officer for the city of San Jose, and working for the mayor. And something that I witnessed firsthand was just the sheer challenge that enterprises across all levels were facing, from small, medium, large businesses, in their ability to hire, retain talent. And so at the same time, you have this larger macroeconomic forces across several developed nations, where you essentially have people, rightfully so, reflecting on purpose of work, but also the dignity of work. And so when you have these major forces moving, we have to, in the end, businesses need to function, they need to serve their customers, and they need to ensure that customers have a safe and clean experience in indoor spaces. And so we're really excited to be able to deliver that capability at scale with our cleaning solution known as Wiz, as a robot, but also with the fleet management capabilities on top of that to demonstrate accountability, auditability, but also ROI for the customers who are taking a bet on robots. And we provide an amazing set of experiences to ensure that they're able to adopt and actually be solving for business solutions. And at the same time, the employees that they have and the cleaning staff are able to focus their efforts and attention on other matters versus being overburdened on things such as vacuuming and ensuring the floors are covered in terms of vacuuming coverage, or that they have some level of pathogen removal, which we're able to deliver. And so that's just the start. I think the journey ahead is going to be very interesting too, as we think about this cobotics, collaborative robot space, going from indoor to outdoor, and some other exciting partnerships that eventually will be announced, that I'm really excited to be part of this journey with the team.
All right. Well, I don't know how much of that announcement you can reveal to us, but I'll leave that for a bit later on. Let's take one thing at a time. So you've talked a bit about this Wiz commercial cleaning robot. I can't remember the numbers that I was given before in terms of unit sales, but certainly it was very impressive, the number of sales, unit sales that have already happened. Were impressive. I don't know what the latest is. If you could enlighten me, if you're allowed to, I don't know. But certainly, you're looking at very large customers. If you're looking at local government sort of buildings and things like that, you're talking about lots and lots of space that needs to be cleaned and maintained. You're talking about large orders, aren't you? Really? I mean, what are your current sales units, and what are your projections, if I can be so direct?
Yeah, I think you're definitely right to ask for our current sales. Look, I think in due time, we are going to be able to speak more detail in terms of the exact numbers. But what's I think amazing is that just the sheer number of penetration this company globally has when it comes to delivering robots. We're in the easily in the, I would say, I would say 5-figure range in terms of us, having that proficiencies to deliver robots at a commercial scale, but also most importantly support them. And once again, the emphasis is on providing a solution. I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised at how advanced we are in penetrating the markets. I think if you go to some of the most major multifamily residential, hospitality, including hotel brands, you're going to find a Wiz robot there, and you can definitely scour over social media to see our Wiz robots in action, improving and advancing the experiences of those customers, like tourists and hotels, but at the same time ensuring that they're having a safe journey, wherever they are. And ultimately, they're able to then say, like, hey, look, this is keeping the floors clean, this is keeping the spaces clean, and this is also, once again, empowering the staff so that they can focus on other items, such as disinfecting other areas.
Yeah, I'll just quickly sort of, I shouldn't have clicked on it, but I wanted to just say what industries you're aiming at or already dealing with: the healthcare, hospitality, senior living, commercial cleaning, higher education, and workplaces. So it's a commercial, definitely not a home, aimed at the consumer home market, which kind of makes me want to ask, what is the difference between home cleaning robots and this one, the level of functionality? And you're talking about pathogen removal or something, which suggests some sort of disinfection capability. And yeah, give us a sort of basic idea of what the difference is between home robots that we kind of familiar with and these commercial ones that you're showing us.
Yeah, I think there's obviously a very pretty significant gap, right, when you think about consumer versus enterprise markets, right, in terms of a product positioning, as well as kind of overall sort of business model structure. But I would say the key differentiating factor is simply that the standards are significantly higher, I think, for enterprise, because there is a true sense of accountability for our customers, where coming out of the pandemic, there is a complete redefinition of indoor spaces and the expectations that customers have. And so one example is, you mentioned healthcare earlier. I came from the healthcare space. There is an amazing amount of, I think, responsibilities these days placed on our healthcare frontline workers, where we really need to think more broadly, okay, from the frontline workers who are delivering care as practitioners, to those who are providing supportive services on the front lines, to those in management positions that do show up on site every day. How does Wiz as a product map to ensuring that they have, to their business outcomes, most importantly to protecting and ensuring that their patients, the providers and supporting staff, anybody who shows up on site at those facilities, are taken care of, including their families. And at the very least, they're comfortable walking into that space. And so, I think going back to enterprise versus consumer, I think they're dealing with very different sort of needs fundamentally for when someone needs to adopt a robot and why.
Okay, one last question in this section. I wanted to talk about humanoids because I think a lot of people are interested in humanoids. But this Brain OS, I mean, our readers will be kind of familiar with it. It's an operating system for these kind of robots, these kind of cleaning robots. It's a separate company that supplies this. I don't know if Softbank owns it or has shares in it, but it's definitely a separate, or at least autonomous company. It intrigues me that when you got these new technology, it reminds me of the early years of the computer revolution, if I can call it that, where everybody was getting computers. It went from nobody having any computers in their house to being everybody having computers in their house, and there were lots of different types of brands of computers, but really only one operating system, which was the Windows operating of Microsoft Windows. Now, I often wonder, because I do see this Brain OS, Brain Core is the company behind Brain OS. They are supplying their operating system for at least 2 or 3 robot companies that I know. Is that something that, I mean, when you talk about maintenance and support and things like that, do you provide it yourself, or do you ask Brain Corporation to provide the after sales support and the software updates and things like that? And does it concern you that a very powerful company might emerge off the back of your machines?
Yeah, I don't think that really is a concern for us right now, because this industry is, the way, and I'm sure you, having followed it for several years, can see it as well, where I think we're coming out of this original trough of disillusionment where there was a lot of funding in robotics, especially in physical automation. And some industries really got it right with interesting exits, right? Such as obviously Amazon and Kiva as an early sort of major acquisition there. And so as we think about the robot journey, moving away from industrial warehouse into other physical environments that are interacting with their fellow employees as colleagues, doing task handoff and also being in spaces where they're directly interacting with or have the opportunity to interact with customers. I think it's a very different environment. And so when you think about that being said, I'm not really concerned about who we partner with will be the large giant. I think it's beneficial for us where, because the market is so nascent, so early still, there's so much pie to be shared, that I would love to help build up other people's businesses if they choose to partner with us, because it's all about expanding the pie, making it bigger, in the nice terms of co-opetition, even with other point vertical robot solutions that deliver both hardware and software capabilities. So we're definitely open to partner. And I think the market's big enough where, if you're an IoT player, you're a vertical robotics solution provider, if you are building middleware or some other form of operating system, I don't think it should stop us from partnering. If anything, I'd love to talk to you, because I think there's just so much to be done in the market to ensure that robots are operating effectively, mapped to business outcomes that our customers need, but most importantly, they are safe, as well as secure and privacy minded.
Yeah, it's a very interesting machine, potentially a massive market. It's a classic sort of sector for robots, as you probably know. I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
The dull, dirty 3D jobs. Is one of the 3D jobs dull, dirty, and not so much dangerous? I suppose most of the time it's probably not, but certainly it's dull and dirty. Do you imagine that it's going to take over a lot of jobs? It's a story we could do every day. Robots taking over human jobs and all that. But this is one job I don't think a lot of people want to do anyway. So they'd rather see robots doing it. It's inevitable. It's probably a stupid question to say, will it take over human jobs? It's bound to. It's already doing that. But what are your thoughts on it? What are your observations about things like that?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. When it comes to these jobs, obviously, as you mentioned, the 3Ds there of dull, dirty, and dangerous. There is, I think, a lot of reflection right now done across all levels of all socioeconomic levels to really, address, I think, fundamental issues when it comes to inequality, right? Whether it's income gap or the type of roles and responsibilities people fulfill. I think if anything, it's going to create an opportunity where people are able to be augmented in the things that they're doing now, but also really give people the option to like, hey, look, there are upskilling opportunities ahead. And I think robots are actually going to create an entirely new field of workforce responsibilities. I think it's more so, I was during my last role with the city of San Jose, a lot of things that I was focusing on was bridging the digital divide and bring broadband connectivity to low income and communities of color households. And when you think about that, there's obviously internet being such a massive disruption. At some point, when you have technologies such as this that go from emerging to now highly adopted, everybody else needs to be able to keep up. And so I think it's more so up to us as a broader robotics industry to work with nonprofits, to work and engage with policymakers, to also work with our customers to ensure that we create a more equitable world that empowers everyone versus leaving people behind. And I think that's honestly a better business model going forward. And it's also more responsible. Look, going back to the brain question you asked earlier, I think something that is very unique about the SoftBank Vision Fund is the emphasis on vision, which is, I think Masa-san tends to describe his approach in venture capital not as venture capital but as vision capital. And I think the other part is the synergy that is created across the Vision Fund portfolio, such as a Brain Corp, which is we led their Series D, partnering with the broader SoftBank conglomerate to be able to deliver this capability.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. It is, as I say, it's an area of interest for your Masayoshi-son, is he the chairman of SoftBank? Is he the boss of? I mean, he seems very interested in this sector, basically, which is lucky for us because SoftBank has been a very newsworthy company for the last few years, and even before this, I would say far more directly commercial venture of cleaning robots. Let's now have a look at these humanoids. It's on your other website as well, a bit further down. If I click here, I could see each one. So rather than look at each one in turn, I'll show the audience the two that I know of. So on the left, we've got Pepper, and in the middle, we've got Now, or Neo, I don't know exactly how to say it. But these humanoid robots have been doing reasonably well in terms of sales, unit sales. They've been very popular. They've sold out in some markets. But I heard or read that SoftBank is kind of scaling back its activities or business in these areas, in humanoid, development. And it intrigues me that story happened a few months ago, I think. And it intrigues me more now that Elon Musk, as I'm sure you've heard, he says that Tesla is going to develop a humanoid, and that humanoid business is going to be bigger than their electric car business. So if that's the case, then you're talking about massive, massive business. Why would SoftBank be scaling back and maybe not investing more?
Yeah, I think, I wouldn't say that, we've completely scaled back and said, hey, we're done with this project. I think we paused production for now on Pepper. And, we're going to continue to sell those into clients and ensure that the usage and applications are supported. But really, I think it comes down to focus, right? Which is, where are we right now in the current market versus where do we need to be to build a sustainable, scalable, and profitable business, so that we can go tackle the broader areas and never say never. I think on the humanoid side, that's not something for me. It's just my personal opinion now. But I think something that is important is, look, I love the fact that someone like a visionary founder such as Elon Musk is coming out and saying we want to do humanoid robots or just robots in general, because I think it's highly validating for the broader ecosystem of what physical automation can bring to the world. Versus only living, when we think about automation, so much of it has been done also in industrial, and as you mentioned, the dangerous areas such as mining to software, when we think about RPA. And so I think there's just a tremendous amount of validation, that to see a visionary leader such as Elon Musk come out and say that is great. And once again, what I want to stress is, how do we create a more equitable world out of this? How do we empower people versus disrupt, right? And most importantly, how do we also address the initial issues of cyber, of physical security, and also of privacy? And I think we, as an industry, we come together and ensure that we set those standards, and we are getting ahead of that, versus waiting for things to happen.
Mm. Yeah, the humanoid robots question is just the most fascinating one, really. I have a lot of thoughts and feelings, I would say, unsettling, some of them. I mean, we've all seen science fiction movies where robots feature. 99 times out of 100, they either start out evil or they end up being evil, and at least attempting to kill their human colleagues. So it's a bit worrying, but the idea of being able to build a multifunctional, generally artificially intelligent humanoid that can do all sorts of different things, whether it's you're washing up or driving your car or doing your gardening or all sorts of things. It's so appealing, so appealing.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's funny, right? The science fiction always tends to make us feel like robots are somehow violating Asimov's 3 laws, or it eventually leads to that violation. I think once again, that's really up to us, as technologists, and I think engaging with policymakers as well as everyday citizens, to really set those guardrails in terms of usage, as well as in terms of the journey of that development from a product standpoint.
All right, let me ask you one final question as a speculative thing. If you don't mind, what if the reality of the world is as follows? What if the reality is that there are humanoid robots that have already been developed, sophisticated like they are in the science fiction movies, but they're not being released because they are potentially very dangerous, as has been shown in all the movies? Because I see a lot of different types of technologies. Robot hands, for example, rather than the 2-finger and 3-finger hands, or end effectors as they call them in factories, I've seen ones that have human-like 5 fingers and they move like that. And you've got all these games companies that have got the motion capture down totally. And, the Boston Dynamics has got the, all this walking and somersaulting, all sorted. Everything, it's piecemeal and all over the place, but it would only take someone, I mean, there's not that many people like Elon Musk around, but he's got the money, he's got the imagination to bring all those technologies together into a very, very capable humanoid robot. And what I'm asking you, do you think it's already been done? And whether it's being kept secret by the same people who keep everything else secret?
Well, I think what you just described kind of reminds me of, by the way, I'm a big Asimov fan, but thinking about the Foundations, and one of the series, this individual calls the Mule, with superhuman capabilities, is a mutant variant. But I think what you got me thinking is, well, what if this individual was in fact not completely organic, but a hybrid or completely sentient, as quote unquote the mule, or the mutant that evolves and disrupts Hari Seldon's development of the Foundation civilizations. Yeah, I mean, I think we can always take these conjectures, and say like, what if, or is it here now? But I think, fundamentally, once again, why we're investing in this technology and why we're commercializing is, you mentioned grasping. Look, coming from healthcare, seeing aging populations, seeing how aging populations want to now, potentially engage or re-engage in the workforce, or at least in daily life habits. Um, you know, Once again, it's a huge opportunity for us to improve grasping technologies so that we can enable folks to be able to live their daily lives, let alone work, especially if they're suffering from something neurological. I think the other part is, looking at my own, I'm a veteran of the U.S. Army. I've done 2 deployments to Afghanistan, and look, a lot of folks have come back during that era with missing appendages, but also civilians on the battlefield that have experienced that. And so, thinking about ways to also, ensure that people who are suffering from disabilities can once again have dignity of life in terms of their daily usage of appendages that they've lost, to also thinking about, down the road, how we can augment our overall population to live a longer, healthier life with dignity and purpose. So I know it sounds like there's a lot of scary things, but I think also there's just so much positivity too. And I get it, it's a double-edged sword, and I think that's where we need to really engage with everyday people, and also engage with policymakers and nonprofits who are serving those people to best understand what are the guardrails put in place.
Well, that's why we don't really cover military robotics on our website. We once in a blue moon, like once a year or two, that will accidentally publish a story about military robotics, because it's a completely different mood, and you go down a very dark roads when you start talking
Correct.
about these things. But yeah, with humanoids, I think, the space program seems to be the most appropriate place for them for the time
Yeah.
being. Send them off to the moon or Mars and get them to, fight it out between themselves over there, Whether they're sentient or not doesn't really matter. As long as they don't hurl things from over there back to Earth,
Yep.
we'll be
And
fine.
and humanoid aside, I think who are we to say things need to look humanoid? I think that's up to a lot of people who study biomimicry to determine is the human form the most optimal form based off of the use cases and efficient form. But I would dare say, look, when it came to robotic enabled surgery to treat brain tumors, some of the most amazing forms are in fact quite simple by being gyroscopic. They were able to deliver more pinpoint radiation into areas that otherwise wouldn't be reachable, as well as at faster speeds, so that you can treat more patients, especially in more, high patient needs in markets. So, I think there's many ways to skin the cat. I think ultimately it really comes down to it. It depends. And I think it's up to us as an overall industry. And I appreciate journalists such as yourself asking those hard questions and highlighting and reminding industry to think about these things. So thank you.
Well, thank you for answering and giving us your insights. As I say, it's a difficult. I don't really want to explore those things. I just don't feel ready for that kind of thing. We occasionally see military robotic stories, and it seems like it could accelerate very quickly once the military gets hold of these kind of things. It would just go, very quickly to a very scary level. So
yeah, there's so much we can do in industrial and enterprise and cleaning, in healthcare here with robots that I think create a lot of good. So there's plenty of focus and attention that we need to do here.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, Jordan, it's been a pleasure and a very fascinating conversation with you. Thank you for your time and insights. It's been a
Thank you.
really, really good interview anyway.
Thank you, Abdul.
Send us an email at sales@roboticsandautomationnews.com to register for one of our many upcoming webinars. And if you'd like us to host your webinar, we have a range of options, including long-term lead generation packages and marketing campaigns. We look forward to hearing from you soon.